Good Yar, this is Gemara and Beitzah, Daf Test, a little learning. Should be a Shas's Chosser for a Shem, for Van Vivek, like Misash, and Raise the Zoras, can handle either Basim, as Chay, say, Self, and Dela, Shatz, Relation, as Nami, which I think we should have Shmov, Tia, Din, Khan Rizal, Malchai, Masin, Lebrachas, the Musa, Din, Shimin, as you, Figure, Michaelis, and Masila, Huva, Revigors, the Shem, Nafta, the Tum, and Nicholas, the Shalom, and Ruchel. Besides Sharchali Yisrael, so Chashil Mishal Chaim and Tavaira, and Shir Miriam Abbas Rizal Gittel. This year we'll start with a bracha that the year should be a fabulous year of Geula Mirz Hashem, and a year of continuous growth in Mirz Hashem. We should all continue to learn together to understand the Gemara with clear clarity, Chazara as always, and let's get to it. Daf Chesem and Beis. 5 lines from the bottom. Tani Reb Zera. We're in the middle of a lengthy discussion about covering the kai, this animal, which is the Savi Chaya, Savi Behema. Are you allowed to cover the blood if you shechted on Yantif? Are you allowed to cover the blood with dirt? Or is there a potential muksa issue? Is there a potential digging issue? Etc. The din of Kisui Hadam. Says the Gemara, 5 lines to the bottom, Tani Rav Zera, Loi Kai Bilvad Amr, Salach was not only said about a Kai, let's say someone shechted 3 different types of animals, a Behema, a Chaya, and a Oif, and what happens? And all the blood mixes together. Now, all the blood mixed together. Also, the Concise of Yantif. You're not allowed to cover it on Yantif. And the reason being, as we mentioned earlier, is because the blood of a chaya and an oif you need to cover. But the blood of a behema you don't need to cover. So the same reason by the kai, we had a suffix, we had a doubt, we're not sure. Should you cover it? Because perhaps it's a behema, it's a chayas of the behema, and on the aspect of behema doesn't need to be covered. So to over here, you shechted a behema chay and oif. So the chay and the oif need to be covered, but the behema doesn't. Says Rav Zera, it's a similar halacha. You're not allowed to cover it up on Yantif. Amr Rav Yosi, Bar Yasina, 3 lines at the bottom. Lo shano in yachlach says b'dikira achas. Says Rav Yosi b'desina. That's only if you can't cover with 1 shovelful. Avol yachlach says b'dikira achas motor. Cover with 1 shovelful, then you're supposed to. Why? Because the chay and the oif, of course, you should cover. The behema you should not. You don't know which is which. But if it all can be covered with 1 shovelful, so what do you lose? Says the Gemara of Shita, that's obvious. Answers the Gemara, I would think maybe there's a Gzera D'Rabbanan, maybe there's a Gzera D'Rabbanan forbidding you from covering even with 1 shovelful, in the concern that you'll do multiple shovelfuls. Kamash Mlan, that know that if it's 1 shovelful covers all 3, then it's allowed. The only reason you're not allowed is on the potential that you're covering the behema, which has no reason to do it on Yantif. But if all can be done with 1 shovelful, then it is allowed. Says the Gemara. And the truth is, that's really the end. We should have done this in the previous year, I apologize. That's really the end of the sugya of Kisei Adam. And what comes out is that there's 3 reasons that you cannot cover the blood of a kai, the din of Kisei Adam, with dirt, with ash, on Yantif. The last reason we just said is because it might be a behema, and on the potential it's a behema, you're not allowed to cover it. Then we had the teretz of Rami Bar Rav Yeva, who said that people are going to think that a kai is a chaya, and therefore come to eat the chaylev, which you're not allowed to. And third of all, Rava said is that the ashes are not necessarily considered mukhan for such a purpose, because the ash is only prepared for a vadai. That was the difference between vadai and suffix. This is a suffix. You can't use something which is prepared for a vadai for a suffix. So 3 reasons why the blood of the kai cannot be covered on Yantif. Amar Rabba on the last line, Shachat Tzibur Me'erev Yantif Yimakasin, I say Yantif. You shach the bird on Erev Yantif, you're not allowed to cover it on Yantif. The concept being that since you could have done it before Yantif, you're not allowed to do it on Yantif. Similar to the din of covering over cooking food on Yantif. We know if you could have cooked it with the same level of freshness, you're not allowed to cook it on Yantif. Of course, we say fresh food is always better, but we see over here, if you could have done an Erev Yantif, you're not allowed to do it on Yantif. However, continues the Gemara on top of Amid Aleph, Tesam and Aleph, Gilgal Isa Me'erev Yantif, Mafresh Menu Chalasa B'Yantif. If you needed a dough in Erev Yantif, you're allowed to separate the challah on Yantif. Of course, challah is when you make 32 1/5 eggs worth, which in conventional society is 2.25 kilo, 5 pounds of flour, you separate the din of challah. Generally, if there's not a Beis Hamikdash, the challah went to the kohen. Nowadays, we burn it, or one can just wrap it up and throw it out. But says the Gemara, let's say you made a dough on Erev Yantif, you're allowed to even separate the challah from that dough on Yantif itself. Says the Gemara, that's the first opinion. Avud Shmuel Amar, he disagrees, and he says, "Afilu Gilulis and Erev Yantif, Ein Mafish Ren Chalas Yantif." You cannot separate. So we have a machlokes whether you're allowed to separate the dough, and the center at the machlokes at the moment is you're allowed to even make a dough on Yantif. So therefore, one would think, since I can make a dough on Yantif and I could separate the chal on Yantif, what's the difference if I made it on Erev Yantif? That would be the first opinion, whereas the Avud Shmuel says no. You're not allowed to separate the chal from this dough that was made on Erev Yantif. Says the Gemara, should we say Shmuel argues with his father? Avud Shmuel again. Avud Shmuel just taught us that you're not allowed to separate challah. Suggests the Gemara that Shmuel, his son, disagree. Why? Damar Shmuel. Shmuel says challah is chutz laaretz. The din of challah and chutz laaretz din derabanan, and therefore the halach is you do not have to separate before you eat. You got to eat and leave over the challah as the last piece. But what do we see? We see that potentially you're allowed to eat from the dough. If you're allowed to eat from the dough, there'd be no reason to forbid separating it on Yantif. The only reason why we can fathom why Avud Shmuel said you can't separate the chal and Yantif is because you're fixing the item. Tikkun mana, you're fixing something. Until now, the dough was not usable, and you're making the dough usable. But says the Gemara, 1 second. Shmuel says it's not true. You're allowed to eat the dough and just leave over a piece at the end of it. Seemingly, that means the dough is edible. If the dough is edible, you should even be allowed to separate it from it on Yantif. Amar Rava says no fundamental difference. Says Rava, it's true that Shmuel says that you're allowed to separate, you're allowed to eat and leave over from the chal. But when you do an act of separation, that piece becomes ulcer. That piece goes to the kohen. That piece you have to burn and throw out. So the act of separation is still an act of fixing. It's true. You didn't need to do that. You could have left over a piece. But if you go and separate it, that would be an act of separation, act of fixing. And that is why Avud Shmuel says it is not allowed. And Shmuel and his father agree. Just one interesting halacha, that's the very first cousin to this halacha, is the Gemara said that you're allowed to eat and go, and leave over a piece. And this is relevant if someone were to have forgotten to separate challah in chutz laaretz, and it is Shabbos. On Shabbos, similar to Yantif, you're not allowed to separate the challah because it's an act of tikkun mana. The halacha is what one would do in such a scenario. Let's say they have 5 pounds of challah, and oh no, we forgot to separate challah. The answer is they would eat the challah and leave over a piece, and the piece that is left over, that is the piece that would have the kedusha on it, and then it will be discarded, etc. after Shabbos. But it's the same concept that you don't do an actual separation because that is a tikkun mana that fixes the item. Rather, you eat until you have that piece left over, and then that's going to be the piece that will be challah. Says the Mishnah Tesam and Aleph, the second Mishnah on this Masechta. Beis Shammai Oimrim, continuing the theme of the machlekes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel with regard to Yantif, says Beis Shammai, Malichas Asula Mishavel Chashayvach. You know that they carry a ladder from one shayvach, which is a pigeon coop, a dovecote, to another one. Be allowed to lean the ladder from one pigeon coop to the next. Beisil says they are both allowed. Now exactly what is the Isser over here? Why he's carrying it a problem, leaning it not a problem. Beisil says everything is not a problem. Let's see. Says the Gemara, Amrav Chanan Barami Machlekes. What is this debate? Whether you're allowed to carry the ladder from pigeon coop to the next. Bershus Arabim says from Chanan Barami. That's the Machlekes you're carrying in the street. To Bishamei Savri Haroya Oimer. What is someone going to see fake? They see you carrying your ladder on Yantif. They're going to think Latich Kago Yitzarich. You got to fix your roof. And that's Maras Ayin, now to fix your roof on Yantif. So the reason Beis Shammai forbids you from carrying the ladder from pigeon to pigeon coop is because someone might think you're fixing your roof. But Beis Hillel Zavri, no, the Shaivchai, the pigeon coop itself, they see you're carrying it from a pigeon coop to another pigeon coop. So they see you're not going to your roof. So says Beis Hillel, it's not a problem, we don't have to worry about the onlookers. Avol, that's when it's in the public domain. Avol versus a rabbi, versus a yachid, let's say you're carrying your ladder in your own backyard. They're called mutter. Says Rav Chanan bar Abi, there's no problem. Again, Rav Chanan bar Abi is learning that the potential Isser at hand is what are people going to think. Beis Shammai says in the street, someone's going to come think you're fixing a roof. But in the house, everyone says, no one sees what you're doing. Beis Hillel says, no, even in the street we're not concerned, because I'll see your Pidgey coop. Ask the Gemara the fundamental question. Eini, is that what you said just accurate? Such an important rule to always remember. Whenever there's a maris ayin, an iser, a forbiddance that someone might see what you're doing, don't do this because what are the onlookers going to say? That's forbidden even in the privacy of your house. It's true that the impetus of the reason why it's usher is because what will people think? But once Chazal created that Isser, it becomes usher even in your closed doors. So ask the Gemara, what's going on over here? You, Rav Chanan bar Ami, just said the whole debate is outside, but inside everyone agrees it's not a problem because no one's going to see. What do you mean? Generally, when something is forbidden, it's forbidden even inside your house. Answers the Gemara, Tanoim, Tzvachlik is Tanoim. Titan, you to the rice. Let's say you're walking home on Shabbos, you're on top of your clothing, it's drenched. What do? You want to dry your clothing? You let it spread out in the sun, says the Beitzah. You can't have people see it. If people see it, what are they going to think? You did laundry. They're going to think you're hanging up your white clothes, you did laundry. And of course, do laundry is also on Shabbos. And therefore, you're not allowed to spread out your clothes in front of what people are going to see. However, Rav Shimon, they say it's forbidden. You're not even allowed to hang it out in the privacy of your house. So seemingly that's this machlokes. Whenever there's a forbiddance outside, do we create the Isser even? But Chadri Chadarim says the Tanakama, no. And says Rav Shimon, yes, it's also even. But Chadri Chadarim, and that's going to be the same machlokes that we just said, that Rav Chanan bar Ami is going to say it's mutter, whereas if Yehuda Marav is going to say it's aser, but Chadri Chadarim. Igid Amri, another way of learning the previous Beitzah. Excuse me, the previous way of learning the Mishnah. Chanan bar Ami says machlokes in the Mishnah exact opposite is Rishus Yachid. The Beis Shammai is Rav Yehuda Marav, it's less Rav Yehuda Marav. Beis Shammai says I don't like Rav Yehuda Marav, which means what? That when something is forbidden, it's forbidden even in the privacy of your home. Beis Hillel says no, I disagree. Aval Rishus Rabbi, and now we're flipping the coin. Different call, servant knows it's forbidden because what are people going to say? And now it says Mar Le Marav Beis Shammai. Are you going to suggest that Rav's like Beis Shammai? That's not good. We don't want to have a like Beis Hillel. Answers the Gemara, no, it's not so schwer, because Tanai, you realize Vachlik, Tanai, Dani Shechet B'cham of Loik and Gidaham, those Rav Shimon, Oisrim. And before we continue in Amid Beis, it is a point to mention out, it is important, to mention out, that this is Halach L'maisa, that if someone has a drenched shirt, they're not allowed to hang up the shirt in a place where it's normal to hang up laundry, because someone's going to think, what are you doing? You just did laundry. Which means maybe a boiler room you can't hang it up. But let's say your own closet, let's say, a bathroom perhaps is the place can discuss, because is the bathroom a place that people hang up the laundry? If it's a place that people hang up the laundry, we have to be concerned about what are people going to say. But if it's a place that no one would ever fathom hanging up laundry, on top of your bed in your bedroom, no one hangs up laundry there, then you don't have this gezerah, and that is the practical ramifications of this halacha. Says the Gemara, Masnisan on Amud Beis, Tasmud Beis, our Mishnah like Aitan, our Mishnah is not like the following Tani. Tani went to the Beitzah. Amar Rav Shimon Elazar, might be Shammai Yisrael Shemalichlas Asul Mishav L'Shevach. Says Rav Shimon Elazar, there's no debate about carrying the ladder from one chicken coop, pigeon coop to the next. They all agree you're allowed to. What's the machlokes Beis Shammai Yisrael Menachlu Ella? Lahachzir. Are you allowed to bring back the ladder when you finish using it? Beis Shammai says no. Beis Hillel says you're even allowed to return it. So says the Gemara, says our Mishnah is not like this price of Shimon Elazar. Shimon ben Elazar learns that the whole debate is only bringing it back. Our Mishnah seemingly learned that the debate is even bringing you wherever you need to go. Amar Rabbi Yehuda continues the Beitzah of Dvar Mamurim. When did they discuss the Mesulim Shel Shaivach, the ladder of a pigeon coop? Mesulim Shel Aliyah Divrei Kol Alser. If it's a roof ladder, everyone agrees it's us because they're going to come to think that you're fixing your roof. But Acher Ma'imrim Misham Rav Daisa Bechaloin Lechaloin Acher Ma'imrim Bechaloin Lechaloin. Excuse me. One more time. Acher Misham Rav Daisa Af. One second, let's total those plays one more time. One more time. You let to lean it from one window to the next. You're even allowed to use it you didn't know how to walk, literally hop, you know how to walk the ladder from one place to the next. So we have a machlekes over here exactly how to learn how to learn this price. Again, we just pointed out that our Mishnah does not like this price from Shimon and Elazar. Now the Gemara is saying that we're qualifying it when it's a pigeon coop ladder. But if it's an attic ladder, then it's a problem because everyone thinks you're going to your roof. Where Rav Beitzah says, no, it's no problem. Says the Gemara a bit of a story about that which we just said. They came to a certain village. When they came back, the father said to them, were there any shilas, interesting shilas that you heard when you were in that village? So the children responded, yeah. Sulam bali adenu. What is halacha about a ladder? V'tiranu. And we said it is allowed. Amr lehem, so Rav Chia told back to his children, so v'asru mashitartem. Go tell that which is asr, that which you said is mutter, you messed up, and you should tell them that you made a mistake. Now the Gemara explains, what was this exchange? The children thought it was mutter. Rav Chia, the father, says it's asr. Explains the Gemara. Enu, the children thought savar that which we said a moment ago, that is known to be by a ladder of an attic. Mechlal, the Tanakama is ever pligi. Seemingly that's Rav Yehuda. So what does the Tanakama hold? The Tanakama disagrees. Seemingly the Tanakama holds that there's yes a machlekes. But says the Gemara of Allah, it's not really true. Rav Yehuda time the Tanakama come afarish. Rav Yehuda is really explaining the reasoning of the Tanakama. How do I know that? I mean, where do we know that Rav Yehuda is coming along to explain the reasoning of the Tanakama? So because the fact that he said he let her bring the ladder from one place to the next, which shows us that the ladder was really was what type of ladder? Not a roof ladder, because why would it be by the pigeon coop? For the fact you're bringing for pigeon coop, the pigeon coop shows you the pigeon coop ladder. Maybe you'll say, no, they're only arguing about a ladder of an attic. So why would the Beitzah say you could bring the ladder which means that where was the ladder? By the pigeon coop. What should it have said if it's a ladder of the attic? Should have said you can bring it to the pigeon coop because it's from the roof. So what does the Beitzah mean? This whole answer only applies to the pigeon coop ladder. That's where we have a machlokes Beisham Beis Hillel. But if it's the ladder of the attic, everyone's going to agree that it's going to be forbidden to move the ladder from the attic to the pigeon coop. Be'idach, says the Gemara, we had a machlekes, right, between Rav Chia's children and Rav Chia himself. So now says the Gemara, what do the children hold? We just explained beautifully why it would be ulcer. But why did the children think that it's mutter to move this ladder? Be'idach, and the kids, mikatani, sulam shal shayvach, mei shayvach l'shayvach katani. It doesn't say a sulam shal shayvach, which would imply the ladder of the pigeon coop, which was your raya, the Tanakama. No, it says mei shayvach l'shayvach, so it could be referred to, says the children, the ladder from the attic. And even you're even allowed to move it from many different pigeon coops, but not necessarily. Even though it's a ladder of the attic, you're still allowed to move it. That is what the children of Rav Chia, who were makel in that story, what they held. Says the Gemara, another way of learning that which we just said. Amrloi hatvei hitoi sulam shaliyah bali adenu. The tilting literally, hitoi, but tilting the ladder from the attic came to her hand. What's that? This is again a new version of how the children of Chia told over their father the story about the ladder that happened when they were in that village. That now the case is, are we allowed to tilt the ladder? So the kid said yes, and Chia said no. Go tell him you made a mistake. What do the kids think? The Rav Daisa is arguing directly, and therefore it's mutter. It's not true. The Kashay Tanakama Kasar Rav Daisa, and that is the machlekes between Rav Chia and his father, Rav Chia's children, and Rav Chia with regard to the status of the ladder. Is there one who would hold the ladder, move the actual ladder from the attic to the pigeon coop or not? Says the Gemara, we'll start this next Gemara, we'll call it over here. We said you let to lean the ladder from one opening, one window to the next, but you can't carry it from one to another. Ask the Gemara, we see with regard to Simchas Yantif, we're talking about going to get a pigeon, going to food for Yantif. We see still Beisham is the Machmer, they don't let you get it, and Beisil is the Mekel. But ask the Gemara of Ramini, we saw the exact opposite. Says yesterday, Beisham said you're allowed to do Kisi Adam. He says, no, don't shecht unless you have dirt. So what do we see here? He sells the machmer. You just told me a moment ago, Beishama is the mekel. Over here, what comes out the exact opposite? Again, you just told me Beisil's one. Yeah, again, Alma Gavisil is Yantiv, Beishami Lachomra, Beisil is being Mekel, but in the second Beitzah, Beisil is more Machmer. Let's say it again. In the second Beitzah, Beisil said you cannot shecht, but in our case, Beisil is one that's being Mekel. It says you're allowed to move the ladder. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Yechran, Mochleves Hashita, the classic Darius switch around the Shitas, and the classical Machlekes, which Shita should he switch around? This is actually a debate between the Rishayim. Rashi over here says, Kanoch Lashitas of Zar Labach Devrehem. Taisa seems to disagree, but we'll leave it at that. Says the Gemara, Mimai, how do you, Rav Yechran, know to switch around the opinions? 1 second, you're asking me from a case of a shovel and dirt covering over the blood. Maybe there Beisham was making, you know why? Because the shovel's already in the ground. No, it's like Binami, and another answer. Maybe only over here, why is they so makel with the ladder? Because the shaivach, the pigeon coop, shows you why the ladder is there. But over there, maybe you would not be makel. So says the Gemara, we do not necessarily have a reason to assume like Rav Yechlan. Rav Yechlan said Muchleves Hashita. Says the Gemara, we do not necessarily have a reason to do that, and therefore says the Gemara, but we know that Rabbi Yochanan said Muchleves Hashita. Where did he say it? Ali Kasha must have been a different machlekes Beisham Hillel. We're going to have 4 more attempts.